to thank Rick because it was Rick's video with Randy and a third gentleman. You guys were talking about the banking system, and that got me all excited. I wanted to get involved in talking with Randy, so I gave him a text, and before I knew it, I was talking to him on the phone, and before I knew it, I was talking to him in camera, and before I knew it, I was talking to all you guys. It's crazy.
Organic creation, buddy. Intent through intention, creation through intention. Isn't it wonderful?
Yeah.
Right.
Co-creation. Co-creation.
Randy, were we expecting anyone else, or is this the crew for today?
Oh, might as well get it started. There'll probably be more pop in later. I heard a few people say they might just come in a little bit later on, eh?
Okay.
So that can work, right, Lee? Like they just...
Listen, guys, it's recording. So I'm going to keep an eye on who's coming in and out, jump in and out when I can or when I will. And it's going now. So enjoy. The Tie Boys or Die Boys.
All right.
are there in the ether. Okay.
Yeah, there's the image.
Thank you, Mr. Lee. We're going to jump right in then, given that we're recording. The requested or proposed or suggested topic for today was all in the now. And I wanted to see if, well, Danusha's we're waving at new people coming in. That's what we're waving. Yeah.
Hi, everyone.
The 2-in-1 package has just arrived.
Oh, there you are.
The 2-in-1 package has just arrived. Was it Lee and D? Was that the way it went? No, with D.
Anthony.
Anto D.
Antidote.
Awesome.
Goose.
So the subject is all in the now. And does anyone feel inspired to step in and get this party started? If not, I'm going to jump in because
No, you go right ahead. I'm not jumping yet.
Okay. All right. The water's fine, actually. It's no problem at all.
Okay, good.
Well, as you know, it's kind of been a little bit of a crazy time south of the Canadian border, going on with the U.S. situation, and I've been following it fairly closely, getting involved just from like the Trump side and things like that. And I was surprised how much I was starting to get emotionally tied into it all. Because I was getting these, I was noticing that I was getting these expectations that certain things were going to happen or look a certain way, and they didn't happen. And then this morning I woke up and was feeling all kind of down and depressed and everything. And I kept thinking, you know, what happens if nothing happens? And I'm going, well, if nothing happens, then I've got to really take matters into my own hands. And as funny as that sounds now, saying it out loud, it felt so real this morning, you know. And I was just noticing I was feeling really bummed out about the whole thing. So, and I'm going to allude to actually Ida's video from today, because you were talking about your feelings and your emotions and how that can have an impact on not an impact, but more so can show you something that maybe you don't see, or at least that's what I was getting from what you were sharing with us. And I was resonating with that. You know, I was going, yeah, I haven't really examined, why am I feeling sad today? Why am I feeling this sort of ominous feeling about what's going on in the States? So thank you for that video, Ida. I thought it was awesome, by the way.
Oh, okay, thanks.
So, yeah, Lee, go ahead.
I'll just jump in slightly on that, William. The fact is that what we didn't see happen did happen. What we expected to see happen was an expectation of what we thought may happen, didn't. So the expectation versus reality was the letdown. So I want to see something tangible necessarily left you down a route that left you feeling a little bit disappointed that nothing did. But when you actually look at the whole thing, lots happened, an awful lot happened energetically.
Yes.
And just because it wasn't tangible to you doesn't mean that it didn't happen. And the fact that when we expect, this is purely to that point, because I went through the same thing plenty of times, but the expectation of something that is tangible in a construct of a third dimensional view isn't what the game is now. The game is on a higher level, which is energetic, which all did happen. So it did, what the mind does is it actually focuses you into this construct of what I expect, rather than what actually happened. And that's more of a feeling and an emotion or an energetic level. That's just purely an aspect that I've learned to deal with and realize that you set dates for certain things to happen and they don't happen. It leads to disappointment. Well, why are you disappointed when you actually know the end game? So I'll throw it open to everybody else. That's just purely coming back to that construct of what did happen yesterday. Well, what happened yesterday was wonderful and beautiful and life-changing for the whole. But in the picture that we saw, it wasn't.
Yeah, it didn't. I mean, I'm speaking to Ida's point from her video. Is for me, it was more like that emotion that I was feeling was showing me that I was in a 3D realm. I was thinking from a 3D realm. I was reacting from a 3D realm, and because of that emotion that was there, you know, I kind of thought, you know, it's just not cool. And it's funny, it was lots of emotions. First it was sad, and then it was angry that I was sad. And then, you know, a whole bunch of things was happening. So, and then laughing at it all when they stepped back from it. So it's crazy. Now I saw Rick kind of raise his hand a minute ago. Rick, did you want to say something in this conversation? Rick J.
Thank you, William. Yeah, you know, there was much pent-up anticipation of what would occur. However, again, jumping out to the overall view, everything is divinely orchestrated to go as such. So these are, let's say, these are divine mechanisms, which everything is, of course, to take us forward to the next step. So everything occurred perfectly as it did. There are still a couple multiple short timelines which can occur with this, meaning that let's say we know one part of the story is over. However, there are the continuations of this where they form into a different energy going forward. So you need this as a catalyst to begin this forward movement. So in actuality, there's nothing negative. Everything, of course, is divinely orchestrated with the overall ascension and divine plan of what must occur upon the planet. So with this, to keep it short without rambling along, what has happened is actually very beautiful, because it is going to guide and empower the people even further in this time globally, where they're seeing, let's say, you know, the complex US legal system and government, you know, how the full dynamics of it is corrupt, that there are no enforceable avenues out of it by those that, you know, their peers, their representatives. So having said this again, this empowers the people further to know that the people must take this forward. Now, quickly, with what everyone was feeling, and just before I came on the show, we are energetic divine beings, empaths that deal with energy. And the stronger you become in this ascension, your body and your physical body, as well as your energetic body, is under immense forward change, where your sensations and everything is heightened. So where everything is energy, with the overall ascension, negative things that occur like this create a negative energy, which needs to be transmuted to the positive. And it's done several ways. One of the ways, you know, you'll shake your head, no, I got to keep thinking positive to go forward. But in the process of doing that, you are also transmuting the energy, and as Lee was saying, with the consciousness, so that we create this new and we come out of this event. However, at this time, as we know, it's so important. And I need to say, although it looks like one thing is over, we definitely know that there's much more that is happening to affect the good future. So yes, we have anticipation, which is a better word. And in this whole ascension, everything happening in this now, it's best not to have any expectations, because also you begin to control consciously the events in the future. You're energizing them. And it's best to let and allow and surrender, but to go forward with the higher consciousness things of what you wish to create. So as a collective, then we create that. But this is also inadvertently, indirectly, this is also what is happening. We are creating the new future as a result. So all of these negative, what you would call negative energetic things, these are catalysts to create the positive, and that's what's occurring. So it's yeah, it's best for, I would say, anyone just to remain neutral and don't draw conclusions on this, other than knowing that everything is that's coming out of it is positive.
Thank you, Rick. Ida, and then Randy.
Okay, so I hear you, Rick. And like Randy talks about the jurisdictions of the legal, common law, and then God's law, I think that that's also another kind of model for looking at 3D, 4D, 5D, right? And what I want to say is we are living in a body that is on 3D plane. So in order to be able to handle what happens in 4D and 5D, there has to be, in my mind, and this is just my opinion, nobody's right or wrong. That's what I want to say. William, you're not wrong for feeling how you're feeling and experiencing what you're experiencing. And Rick is not wrong for wanting us to think positively and ascend, because we create with whatever energy. So all of that is good. But I just want to point out that in order to ascend, to make it there has to be a level of grounding first in order to be able to handle and tolerate what happens in these other dimensions. And if you aren't grounded here, you are almost bypassing you know, what's going to be happening in 4D and 5D. There is such a thing called spiritual bypassing, which I experience and hear a lot of, where it's like you want to skip over all of these dimensions in order to get to that one, but you can't. It's a process. You have to be grounded in them. I even thought Danusha's point last time we met about abundance, and, you know, think about, what are we going to do with all this abundance? I mean, people have been living in their imaginations in the abundance, but are we really grounded in knowing what and how to deal with all the abundance that is going to happen to us? So there is a certain level of grounding that has to happen in the 3D, in the 4D, in the 5, to get there. And apparently 5D isn't where it's at, 12 is. So there's 12 dimensions, right, is what I keep hearing. So so I don't want to bypass my experience of the now being grounded in this 3D where, yes, feelings do arise in the body. Feelings are a communication. Lots of people don't want to feel what they feel because it's uncomfortable, but it's communicating with you. Your feelings are telling you, listen. I hear so many people say, oh, I can't be angry. I don't want to be in anger. And anger is a legitimate feeling. It actually is such a feeling of clarity. It's telling you, I'm feeling somewhere that something is amiss, and I'm so angry because my clarity is showing me that I've stepped into something that isn't working for me. My anger is my clarity to move or not move. So all I want to say is, let's validate, let's validate wherever you are, whatever you're experiencing, and not make any of it wrong.
Being in and
Perfect.
out. Randy.
No, that's awesome, Ida. That was really nicely put. So yeah, validate all of our authentic experiences. And that's what we're here for today, the authentic ones, to just put it together. Sun went away, but it's still a little bit warm in here. So I'm inside Bank of Montreal Tower again. It's empty, so I use this place. And it's one of the only places downtown that I can actually sit. I got a nice spot here, so I come in here instead of going Bankers Hall or whatever anymore. But I had a couple things I wanted to say. So the jurisdictions that Ida talked of, I'll put it into another perspective for you, where there is a plan that is the creator's plan, the perfect moving towards completion plan that we all know exists at the upper level of God's love, do no harm. So it all kind of ties in together, that one. And then there's a human narrative, right? And that narrative spread by the news, which Andrea so eloquently put in the little video that she shared with me this morning. NEWS, North, East, West, and South, spreading the propaganda everywhere. That's what that is. And it is propaganda, and it is meant to affect our emotions, William. There's no doubt about it. And then, and what the best way I can get out of it is to consider it a human construct movie, you know, that's playing out. And each of the people are playing out their part, whether that's Trump or Biden or the guy with the Flintstones buffalo hat on with the horns. That's what I thought of him right away. I thought,
The Grand
hey, that's
Poobah.
from the Flintstones. The Grand Poobah. And each of them playing up their role. And I'd love for Lee to share a little bit more about that Grand Poobah, if he would, for a minute, because we talked about him yesterday. But, you know, one thing that I resonate with is that hat that you have on, and the one I just took off, William. And that is, you know, the white hats. When I hear that kind of language, I start to want to talk a little bit about my experience, right? Because in the banking industry, above any of the retail or even, you know, the commercial end of what do they call it? Private wealth management, and then commercial wealth management. Or shit, I'm losing my wording here. But the level up where the money is created, okay, that level of banking. Then above that, in their pyramidal structure, are these private platform trading institutions, if you want to put a language to it. And in that, they're all run by generals, okay? And these generals, and then I think of what's going on with the American military taking the lead in the Trump administration story, which I believe is true. These white hat generals are the ones that are directing Trump and telling the story and telling him what to do instead of the other way around. But I wanted to say that linking of those two really works for my mind, my authentic experience in this earth suit that I walk around in. The fellow from DC that I was talking to just this morning on the phone, one of my banking officials that I deal with, one of the wisest men I know, and young East Indian man, but he's just got a noodle that's working like you wouldn't believe. And we laughed so hard this morning at the comedy, the humor that we saw in what happened on the day before yesterday. Do I believe those 4 ladies passed away? Not for a second, but maybe they did. I don't know that for sure either, but I don't think so. I think that's just a big con job. It's part of the movie either way. And are there authentic people that get kind of caught in it and maybe pass away? I don't know that for sure. There are definitely a bunch of them in the world of the hoax that's going on, the biggest hoax that's going on the planet right now. There are people that are suffering and dying in that. We know that. And that is a false flag as well, just like this little false flag that came up. So I think that's probably all I want to say for now. And we'll I'm sure get more conversation as we go along, but I'll pass it over to somebody else. Thank you, William.
Thank you, Randy. Lee.
Just to jump back in on Randy and about the horned guy. I had a friend round to stay with me overnight because we were quite interested in the 3D aspect of what was going to occur. Same as you, we had expectation, William. There's nothing wrong with it. I'm just saying it's a level construct. It depends where you are thinking about the things. As I say, there's no right and wrong in any of this. It's all of our own journeys. It's just how you perceive and see things. But we were both watching, and funny enough, the guy that all of a sudden stormed the Congress building is a personal friend of mine. And I'm sat there, and the guy that I was sat with met me through the guy that stormed the building. So we were in Zoom calls with the guy that stormed the building, and he was storming the building, but he wasn't. He didn't storm anything. And he's an ex-Marine, ex-Navy, ex-super soldier, whatever you want to call it. He's military. So it was a military operation. And the guy that, the conversations that we were having were coaching, spiritual based, and all about God's source and how the universe, multiverse, amplitude, and all of these things work through the guy that stormed that building. And yet the truthers in the community took that straight away, that this horned guy is Antifa storming the building, and therefore their expectation was met with an Antifa storming the building, which was the mainstream narrative that they wanted to create. Yet the fact was, it was a military operation with a military serviceman who was heroic in front of the cameras doing what he does in his shamanic dress, which we can laugh at and say he looked like this, that, and the other. But that's his shamanic dress he wore up on the top of mountain cliffs while beating a drum, chanting shamanic rituals to free the planet. And yet there is this designation that he's this terrorist or whatever they want to call him in the mainstream media. And the synchronicity of that was absolutely fabulous. Us two sat together, this guy all of a sudden on the cameras, storming whatever you want to call it, the building. No, that's not the narrative at all. And it just allowed us to sit back and laugh, like Randy was saying. How funny is this story that's being portrayed in front of us, this film script? How many twists and turns? And if we took a picture and a piece and we didn't see the picture, the puzzle, the whole, then we can easily get them in the wrong place. And that's the whole script. Rise above that and you see the pieces as just pieces of a puzzle and see the bigger picture of the puzzle. It drops in. I'll leave it at that.
I saw Rick's hand again. Rick, how about you? We've got you muted still.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, William. You know, an important thing I wish to say to all the group here, but to all, you know, in these great times, most accept that your consciousness and where your thoughts go, where your focus goes, it does affect what happens, and it does create events and timelines. And this more so happens when you have, let's say, millions or billions as well, following one certain theme. But also when you have so many that are following so many themes, they are keeping these things all alive, and it does create stagnation and confusion for ones as well. So it prolongs the time for us to go forward. Now, very quickly, I must go back with the remnants of darkness, and the master masters of deception, let's say that, we're in the lower realms here. There's very little of them left now. But, part of their tactics are they are not co-creators like us. They have been quarantined to the lowest dimension, and they cannot consciously create. The way that they mostly created was through, as Lee's saying, through propaganda and writing things to get it out there for ones to believe. Because when you have oblivious co-creators, conscious creators like the souls, like us, when you have them believing something that is written, then you create it into reality for them. So I needed to share that. That's why it's so important at this time that everyone indeed does remain positive, but keep their sights forward, keep their thoughts energized to bringing down this heaven on earth. And as an overall collective, the more that are consciously aware that we can do this, then we bring it into fruition much quicker. So, the darkness, again, with their tactics, is what they do is manipulate, distort, and distract. And part of that process is interjecting into the mainstream medias as well as the social medias misinformation, because when they do that, ones that don't know what's going on, they become distracted and put focus energy on that, and it stalls. It doesn't do it because we know what's going on, but their attempt is to stall the ascension because they cannot go where we're going. And there's a separation timeline which is occurring now, where you're seeing much of this evil, let's say in places of government and what have you, are becoming very sick, and some of them are dying because this is the actual separation process. The evil has to stay behind. It cannot go. And on the divine highest order, this is what is occurring as well. So I just wish to say, for everyone to be very conscientious and to choose what you wish to focus on. It's best to just keep an open mind and to take perhaps the highest, straightest, simplest path forward to what we want to create, instead of getting distracted off here on the side by so many instruments of manipulation like misinformation that they put in there. And also you'll come to find there will not be as much a letdown, that you'll understand that you will not need to take as much of that feeling in there, because you also have not attracted it to the lower degree that it is. I'll stop there. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick. I noticed that Karen wanted to share some things. Karen, jump in, and welcome, by the way, to our group.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, everybody. I live in Golden, British Columbia, so that's just a little quick background of where I'm from.
My hometown.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. Cool. Yeah. So I just wanted to piggyback what Rick was saying regarding being the creators that we are, being the co-creation that happens on humanity with humanity, and how our thoughts absolutely affect the consciousness of the planet. As co-creators, we are, I believe, creating everything going on around us. I also truly believe that because, as Rick spoke to, being the creators that we are, we have been manipulated over thousands of years, eons, by the dark, meaning they are not creators. They use us to create their timelines. And with that, we have created exactly what's going on. And because we create personally and we create collectively, I do totally, completely believe that us as humanity have created exactly what we're experiencing. because we all are dark and light. We all live in polarity. That's why we're here. We're humans. We do exist in a 3D level. I do believe we move between 3D, 4D, 5D, and beyond. And with that in mind, being in the body that we are, we have the power. We also have to play out our dark and our light, our shadow. And I do completely feel that humanity is playing out their personal shadow as well as the collective shadow. And we are experiencing the dark because we are also unearthing it as collective consciousness. So it is being unearthed, it is being played out, and we as humanity are going to play this out till it's all completely unearthed and gone, which it is leaving. I do totally, completely believe that the grids that have been overlaid on the planet and the timelines are all eradicated. They're gone. I do feel the light is one, and now we are just sifting through it. And as a consciousness, personally and collectively, it is our job or our choice, really, to stay in the 3D and be living in the mire and the dark and the yuckiness. Or we can choose to come back to our center, because our hearts, if we drop into our hearts, we can feel, I believe we can feel a calmness and a peace within, which is truth. Anything that brings up the anger, the sadness, the despair, anything that isn't true. And that's why we feel it as anger, despair, discord. It's because it's not truth within. What is true within is love, compassion, empathy, and truth, and integrity. And that feels good because that is true. That is true. That is love. That is the heart space. That is who we are. That is our divine being. Therefore, feeling the feelings, it's just absolutely important. It's our shadow work that has to be done. Feeling the feelings, but to observe them from the higher self that we truly are means to observe them as an experience. Sorry, my son just walked in. As an experience here, which is great. And to look at it and feel it. I was on a walk before I was on here, and I went through extremely crazy emotions of anger and blah, 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 blah. But when I can take it to that level of observation as a human being, experiencing a movie, experiencing an experience, boom, I can detach myself from the feelings, still feel them and purge them, and come back to a place of like, okay, where's my center again? And it's the constant work of the mind to bring us back to our center, our heart space, which is truth. So as the world's playing out this incredible, extraordinary experience, it is our individual choice how we want to experience this experience on the planet. And it's not fun at times, but it's also pretty cool when you can view it from the higher perspective. So as a collective, I get enraged because I sometimes feel that the people who are believing all the things are definitely creating a timeline that I don't really want. But therefore, me getting angry and upset and everybody calling each other out is not going to create a better timeline. So therefore, I have to kind of just like push it all away and come back to my center and just believe and have faith and trust. And as long as I stay in my center and I keep doing what I need to do and hold the higher timeline, then yeah, it's going to move. And the more we can do that, the quicker we will ascend. We're ascending no matter what. It doesn't matter if we sit on the couch and eat fries all day, or we go and we pray all day and meditate all day. It doesn't matter. We're ascending regardless. It's how we choose to experience the ascension.
Awesome.
I don't know. That's my little rant. So thanks for listening.
I noticed Dee, you had a hand up. Dee, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, just expanding on what everyone said here so far, and particularly Karen as well. And Ant and I had a really brilliant conversation this morning where we were talking about, I think the one of the hardest programs to overcome for all of us is the separation because we know that it's all one and that we are all one. So how do we talk about anything without saying they and taking ourselves outside of this? And what we were talking about particularly is that it's someone in our reality who is, from all that we can see, a completely soulless creature. How do you, and we know that throughout time, we see this repeated again and again. So we know that this has to be true. Love thy neighbor, and that love is the conqueror of all of it. So how do we love someone like this being who sees a total soulless creature? And I was thinking about, in terms of, we can't go back to the beginning of humanity, but if we just sort of, we understand the mechanics of abuse and trauma. And if we just sort of say, like, let's say that here's the first father and here's the first son who was abused by that father. And we know how this gets passed on to the fact that now there is nobody here on this planet who hasn't inherited this trauma that's gone on throughout all of antiquity. So we're all caught up in this story, and we're talking about stories and not getting too caught up in this 3D realm, playing it out, because we have to play it out. We all know that. But it's, how do we love? That's because it's us. That soulless creature that we talk about is us. And how do we love that to get over that? You know, this is the question that we're grappling with at the moment, but we feel it. And it's just knowing it within. And I think the answer comes from knowing that.
Thank you, Dee. I've noticed 3 different people got messages. So first of all, Andrea, and then Ida, and then Rick.
Hi, everybody. Happy New Year.
Hi.
Good to see you. Good to be here. Yeah, so many thoughts are coming through. One thing I remembered, so part of the work that I do involves accessing past life memory, right? Or what we call past lives. And really it's just creating a bridge to access infinite stories. And so one of my clients came in, and when he regressed to a time when he was 10, when he was sleeping, and he had just woken up from a nightmare. And so in the session, so he's in hypnosis, and so we said, okay, well, what was happening what was the nightmare? And so it turned out that his higher self, or his oversoul, the greater part of him, which is never sleeping. And so then that's true for us too, right? The greater part of us is never sleeping. It's always working. That part was actually on the same timeline. So this entry point in our timestamp was in 1982, and apparently in 1982 a plane had been hijacked and had been taken down somewhere in the Amazon, and the plan was for the terrorists or whomever to blow up the plane. So it was already it was a known event on the level of spirit, on the level of the unmanifested level of consciousness. The pre-story part, because his function was actually to be a kind of meet and greet for the personalities that would be suddenly ejected or released through the blowing up of the plane from the body. So part of his spiritual function was to kind of be a bridge or a greeter to then guide them to the next plane, to orient them, if anything. So I'm not exactly sure why this story is coming to me, except that we die out of this world, out of this storyline every night when we go to sleep. And then we enter into this other
you know, storyscape, this other dreamscape. And if we were to, if we were to be a fairy reporter and to fly down into somebody's dreamscape and then interview the dream character, you know, the dream character would be very convincing, would tell you quite in a convincing way what's going on. Oh yeah, that person's doing that, and this is where I am, and so, however, then once the dream is time to come to its end, or maybe it doesn't. Maybe consciousness is just dropping into that storyline for a bit and then popping out again. But then what happens is we die out of, seemingly, right? Consciousness seems to die out of that story and then is re-downloaded into this reality. And really the only difference from my observation is that somehow this storyline has a continuity to it. I guess the continuity post, you know, production people or pre-production people are doing their job correctly, right? Because somehow consciousness, the storyline, yes, somehow starts to get integrated. And one of the observations I made was that from a child's point of view, when the storyline reintegrates back in, it somehow, the personality consciousness uses the device of memory. And so it reaches to, from a child's point of view, at least from mine, because I had a pretty, you know, in my early childhood was a pretty happy one. So my little mind would look for that which I was to be excited about. So whether it was my birthday or Christmas or something like that, my little child mind would think, oh, what do I have to look forward to? Or what was happening at school? And then it would grab, that's what it would use to grab my storyline back into the body. Now, as an adult, what I'm noticing is that the adult mind uses the last thing, or the thing that it's worried about, the thing that it has to be stressed about. And it uses that as the anchor to bring this personality's storyline back into the body. And this is amazing. It's amazing that as adults, we look for the stressful thing, the thing that we have to worry about, the thing that we have to fix, the thing that we have to, you know, analyze or organize or control, actually. And so I think, so that's interesting, right? Because the part that has the fear, the doubt, and the worry is inherently the archetype of the victim, because that's the one that is vested in the belief of separation. So that is the part of us, the part of our archetypal round table that has been inherently hijacked, and apparently gobsmackingly easily, because as we're watching how people are responding and how they're letting themselves get away with the tumult, you know, within their inner alchemy, it's because there hasn't been an opportunity somehow collectively where well, somehow individually the victim has still been allowed to drive the minivan. And so I think that's what we're working with. We're working with that energy. And the victim archetype, his best friend is the saboteur. And he also utilizes the little mischief makers, the spellcasters, the shapeshifters. And so, yeah, it's a fascinating play of events anyhow. Okay, wow. I think that's it.
Thank you, Andrea. I think I'm going to drive the minivan over to Ida's house. Ida. Got you on mute.
She's a mischief maker.
I can relive. She said, oh, thank you. She's still on mute.
Unmute. Oh, there. Okay. So I'm just adding lots of thoughts going on. So the thing that's helped me, and I can only speak from my experience, you know, I work with people, but when it comes down to it, it's always about what I kind of have experienced and how I can help. No matter how much education I've had, it's not about that when I work with people. It's about connecting and relating experientially. And And so anyway, and I've had, you know, almost 60 years on this earth plane. So, you know, lots of my clients are younger than me, so I can offer maybe, you know, from that bag, right? Because it's 60 years. But anyway, what came to me is I am not responsible for anybody else's journey. I am only responsible for my journey. And in that journey, I think to myself, okay, yes, it would be great to work in the highest of myself all the time, right? But that's not always real for me in my world, right? I'm not always there. So I accept wherever I am, and no matter where I am, it's my journey and nobody else's. And that, I'm going to do just a reminder, that is my contribution to the collective, right? So that's taken care of. I don't have to worry about anybody else and what they're doing or what they're not doing. I only have to focus on what I'm doing, and that's enough. That's enough for the collective, right? And that really, really helps me, because a lot of people in my world feel it's their responsibility to wake people up. I hear this all the time. Oh my God, my neighbor over there, you know, I want to shake them and wake them up, but that's not my responsibility. You know, it's not my job. It's not my job, man. Am I dating myself to that series? It's not my job, man. I think that was Chico and the Man. Anyway, anyway, I think that helps me tremendously stay in my lane, right? And not get bent out of shape and not like want to kill somebody or shake them fervently, you know? It's just stay in my lane, number one. Number two, the other thing that really helps is seeing myself. I don't know, you call it multidimensional, so that's like this, right? A hierarchy. I call it like all different parts of myself. So there's a part of me that is like my neighbor that I want to shake. That part exists within me, okay? So it makes it really easy at times to see my neighbor as a part of me that I may reject, not like, you know, curse myself about it, you know, look myself in the mirror and say, yuck, you know, that part exists in me. I have it too. It's probably triggering me because it's in there in me too. So if I look at everybody as having parts too, that is only one part of them. The part of them that's driving me nuts that I want to shake and say, wake up, smack, 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 like the Three Stooges. That's only one part of that person too. They have a plethora of parts, probably ones that you'll really, 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 really like. If you can get past that part that's mirroring that bullshit you have in yourself. So those two things really help me. Stay in my lane, focus on my journey and how I can make myself come to the highest when it's possible. And that is my contribution, yay, 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 to the all. And we are multiple parts people, everybody. So that means, Karen, you probably have, I don't know, 50, 60 parts in there, I would imagine, that you've gathered by now. And there's only a few that are angry. Imagine, there's like, you know, 46 other ones that aren't, right? So that's all I'm saying. Okay.
Thanks, Ida. Rick?
Thank you. Yeah. I wish the couple there, I forget your name, maybe it's Anna. No,
Dee
not
and
Anna.
Anthony. I'm practicing that. Dee and Anthony.
T and Anthony. Thank you. Yeah. You know, one thing that does assist is during the process of one doing their inner work and let's say, at their separation process from even the victimhood or the darkness, one thing that assists, and one thing, because you have become stronger as a conscious co-creator and you are affecting this reality much stronger in this moment now than you did yesterday. So you're becoming stronger as a conscious creator because of the constant uplift in vibration and frequency upon the planet. So you're having much greater effects now than you ever had before. And please understand again that the ascension is the upward shift for humanity to take them out of, let's say, the clutches of evil, where you want to go to the harmony. This is the ascension, where we are ascending to a place of harmony, community, the good thing. So during this process, there is that separation process from whatever you wish to call it, a dark entity or the dark shadows of yourself. It is each in the same, however, it is different to some degree. And the difference why is because there is this conscious dark entity of itself that remains, that is an opposition to what you have within you, what ones call your darkness, which you need to first balance it, and then you overpower it as you go higher on your journey to the pure light, once you have purified your energetic self in fields. And the complete purification, when that comes, you do not remain in this reality. And some of you can go and look at some of the ancient teachings, let's say in Tibet, for example, where some have just went to pure light and ascended. So that is the process of purity. However, for all intents and purposes, assisting with, one on their path, you do have this absolute conscious darkness here. And as a conscious creator, if you are to love this, if you are to love it, you are giving a form of condonance, acceptance to what it has done to you. Even though if you're a victim, by loving it, to try to separate from it, you are actually condoning what it did. So it is good and it is prudent to have a higher wise love, to do a different process, that you recognize it, you can love it for what it did, take the value for what it showed you, but do not accept and condone what it did, because it's a very real, dark, energetic, dense value. And you have the ability to keep it out of your space by not inviting it in, by accepting what it did. So this assists you in separating from you. It's still in this lower density reality. It is still here, and it's kept, let's say, alive by lower dark conscious entities that are, they're in the satanic cults or what have you. However, to give you a separation in a breathing space, it's best not to love them in the sense, oh, I love you, to condone, to keep them in your reality. Because if you do, you are keeping threads, energetic gaps in your field opening that will invite them in. And the more negative that you are and dark, the more access they can have to you, because likes attract. And this is why we teach it's so important when you're doing your inner work to work on all of your actions, your reactions, because if you act negative or out of fear, that is a real energy that is affecting your reality, and it will attract these things into it. But where you also have a dark entity that is out there, it also provides the avenue for it to get in And yeah, you can say violate you, but then again, you are not the victim because you are a soul upon awareness that you have this power to know that you are omnipotent above that. You just need to know how to use your consciousness and your power to activate your actual power with it. I won't ramble on. That's good. Thank you. But just don't love the darkness. You can do a different type of love. Have a wise love, is what I say. Because in this time, we are above that. You need the unconditional love, but there's many that you've got to add that extra layer on it, that you cannot love everything, else you're going to keep it in the timelines. And we're trying to ascend the timelines where it doesn't exist. So please don't energize it, is what I suggest. Thank you.
Thanks, Rick.
Thank you.
Any other thoughts or comments? Danusha, please unmute and welcome back.
Be a good idea. You can hear me, innit?
Yeah.
Right, I'd love to speak to everybody and everything, but I'm not. I've got some notes and I'm going to fly through them. They'll make sense in different areas. Okay. The way that I believe in ascension, I know it's as above, so below. We understanding of higher and lower. I see it differently. I see it within and without. It's like the internal self to the 3D form. We get lost in a lot of phrases and words, I know that, but sometimes it is part of the understanding as well. But then to me, it's about the layers outside, the energetics outside. And where I'm going to go with that is just to give a tiny example. Again, everything's only my belief, my understanding, my experience, my world with people, life, family, me, and obviously the energetics that surrounds us as well in consciousness. But just giving the tiny example of the Schumann resonance. So many people said to me, what is a Schumann resonance? What's a Schumann resonance? To me, it is the definition of the heartbeat of the existence of this plane that we exist in. To me, that means we are the resonance of within the heartbeat of thyself. As I have been guided and shown that the first cell that is created as mother, father of creation of us, that it is our heartbeat. It is that heart cell, the connection of, whatever phrase you believe in, consciousness, the oneness, the all, the source, the God. It's all that connection of. So when everybody's been experiencing, like we all will, none of us are any different. I don't care how enlightened you are, you're going to experience stuff because you have to. It's part of the consciousness. Yesterday when I woke up, my feelings, not that I'm watching everything because I haven't got time, it's too much information, and I'm just going along with everybody's beliefs as well. And yet I do know of things, but I've still got to wait for them to happen. So I suppose it's just, yes, with all of you, what you're saying, you must go with what you're feeling. And if you are feeling angry and you want to shake somebody, you know that, yeah, it resides in you. Whether for whatever reason, it doesn't matter. It's just for you being able to learn how to connect with oneself. And again, talking about different dimensions, I've worked with so many dimensions that this is my work, this is me, this is my existence. And when you have got things coming at you in so many different angles, from different dimensions, different timelines, different frequencies, whatever they are, if we want to call it a past, a future, different beings, entities, there are many. You have to be, whether you want to call it a 12th dimension, a third, fourth, whatever, you have to be within. And I know people say the eye of the storm, but you know when you're in the eye of the storm, when there's a bomb going off around you and you might go into shock, but there's a knowing that you have to do, you have to be, and you do become like, the emotions dissolve because you have to be and do. The emotions can come after the shock and they're like, oh my God, did I just do that? You know, this is coming at me, that's coming at me. But in that moment of time, that's why we're not going to be in that constant ascension. We're just going to flow through, move, swim. Sometimes it feels a bit of a jagged rock. Sometimes you feel like you're drowning. Sometimes you're sort of flying above it, because it's just your experience. And to me, the more experiences we have, the more we can share, the more we can just light the way in whatever it is. If it's a moment in time, writing a book, you're part of a community, you're on your own and you feel like you've been hiding in a Tibetan cave like I have. You know, I feel like you've been in a Tibetan cave for 10 years and you're like, can you let me out so I can speak to some humans, please? So that's how I see it. And I also see as that we're all double agents as well, if not triple agents. We've all been in these timelines. We've been in evilness to understand. That's my belief, and that's where I've been taken and reminded. To me, it's not the awakening, again, it's a remembering, where I've remembered different dimensions and timelines, and if you want to call it past lives, and the evilness that I was connected to because I was doing double agent stuff. Even recently, a consciousness thing, because we're not always conscious of everything. There's so much more magic out there, and when it arrives, boof, it'll arrive exactly for you to do your timeline work. So if you suddenly, I described this a few months ago, it was like being in, I just suddenly arrived and seeing the underground, so I know a lot of the dark negative, and it is being able to look at the devil in the face and be, you know, able to take it on, because it will come for you. And when Rick said, you know, about these forces, and Dee as well, talking about love, in my journey, I've been through so much understanding the outer, the inner, to see that we've been programmed again on so many levels to love everything, don't harm anything. There's a spider in the corner, oh my God, I've killed it, you know. And we get so involved in not loving enough and not giving enough that, again, guess what happens? We forget to give oneself. Even being a mother, we give to the child, we do, next minute we've forgotten, oh, we're a mother. Actually, no, we're a woman, and we are important too, to take care of. And I just feel like we've got lost and embroiled with it. And for me, especially right now, for my personality, I know I can be a real warrioress, but very much I'm a giver, I'm a carer. I just I want people to feel good, and I can see where I get sucked into it. And even energetics, that's where they can come and use and abuse me. And I've just realized this fierceness. It's like, that is love. I love myself so much for my gifts, my unique magic. That is why I exist. I haven't come this far to go in another bloody concentration camp, to have any more witchcraft, any more drown. It's like, just come near me, because it ain't happening. And I think it's that fierceness. It doesn't mean I want to hurt you. It's a warning. It reminds me like a Qigong movie. It's so beautiful, where he'll put up his bow and arrow and he'll tighten it, and he's warning you. I've warned you, and you come near me and I will fire, because it's not in our innate being that we want to hurt. But if it's coming to poison you and kill you and take you out, what are you going to do? It's the same with all the energies. It's to love thyself. It's giving it warning. If that means you've got to put yourself in if you're feeling scary, put yourself in a field of energy so you're suddenly invisible. So you feel, until I feel calmer and I can feel positive and radiant again, and just at least in a better space, and I can walk a few steps forward, then do that. Whatever energetics you have to use. I might be totally going off on one, but I am. Also as well, I wanted to point out as well, the layers of the aura, I feel are vitally important. And I think as time moves on over the next couple of decades, that people will be able, when you start to resonate and you be so connected to that self, that you'll be able then to see yourself and your aura and how you are as atoms and cells, and seeing the magic of that. Then you understand in your mind, a conscious self, that you are of it all. You are it all. And it's like parts of us have to die on a conscious level to see the greater picture of it all. And I'm going to slide this one in, and I'll be quiet because I just felt like I've got to say this one. I spent decades and decades seeing, healing, connecting with, for myself, people talk about the word addictions. I feel it's a pretty abused term, really. And people always focus on certain things, like whether it's drugs, smoke. They always limit it and put it in a very tiny handful category. What I've observed is it's not always the addiction, and it's not the addiction itself, because it's not an addiction. There is something at some root level, and it may be many root levels, many subconsciouses going on. And it's not that it's almost like the energetics or the evil or whatever negative AI is infiltrating the emotion. It's almost like the emotion core, the root. And that's what it's playing with. It's not playing with the other aspects. Our conscious mind is made to feel bad of what we're doing, blame, shame, guilt, punishment, like slash yourselves, punch yourselves, and that's what we do because that's what we're told on the outside. But when we go inside and inside and inside and you understand the layers, it was never about that in the beginning. And it's very easy for these, whatever energetics they are, wherever they can be, whether you want to call it underground, overground, to the side of you, if it wants to play with you, because you're feeding it, because you might just have a little twinkle of shame, but you can't remember the shame. Even if it's in a past life, if you want to call it, you can't remember that shame, but you're playing out that shame. So this entity is feeding off the shame. It's not feeding off you picking up that bottle of wine. It's not feeding off you smoking anything. It's feeding off that little sprinkle inside. And when you can look at the sprinkle and you go, oh no, you ain't playing anymore, you naturally change, and your energetics change, your physical form changes. I'm going to take a breath and stop now. I think I've taken enough time up. Thank you.
Thank you, Danusha. There are a couple people that haven't stepped up or been given the opportunity to speak. Yeah, go ahead, Anthony.
Yeah, I'd just like to thank everybody. You had loads of points which are going through my head, so that gives me, the nod that we're all connected. And you talked about the armor. I call it spiritual fat, the mainstream and the grounding. I think we've got to remember ourselves, like you said, we've got to get in to get out. Because all the wars and the worries are going on in here. And we've got to keep remembering that, And the way I ground myself is through creativity, is through meditation, and just going in. And that's all I have to say, really, because you hit every bloody point I wanted to talk about. So thanks again,
Thank you, Anthony.
Meditation is the foundation.
There you go. You're getting kisses for that. That's awesome. I don't know if Benjamin or Anna wanted to jump in and say anything before we wrap it up, but you certainly be happy to give you the opportunity if either of you would like to say anything. Benjamin?
Okay. I feel that what is happening around the globe is needed for now, because to change the system, you have to shine light on it, and to expose evil, you have to bring it into the light. And that is what is happening globally. It is not only in the US, but over here, even in my country. Yesterday, we had a swearing-in ceremony of the president. And before that, the parliamentarians were sworn in. And there was a little, shaking in the parliament, because actually I think for the first time, there's an even number where you don't know the majority and then you don't know the, the minority. So they have to cast a vote. And there was scuffle. People were fighting all over. You could see these people who call themselves honorable, throwing chairs and at each other. And that is exposing, the so-called honorable. And yesterday we saw, but all that happened yesterday in America was telling the world how the whole man-made system look like. We believe in the Constitution, but the Constitution under which we seek cover is not even able to, bring out the truth. So there is a need to go higher, in a higher dimension, and then look beyond, the physical, and many people who are asleep are gradually waking up and they are asking questions. It's like the movie They Live. The guy actually didn't want to wear the spectacles, okay? But when the friend falls and falls and falls, and then he put the spectacle on, and then he saw that there were trans-dimensional beings who were not for the benefit of the greater, population. So, for how long have these things been there? And then the friend said, you just find a plan. When you find a plan, you will find a way of getting, So people are now, waking up to reality. And for us who are already in it, some time ago, people thought we were, mad, when you say some of these things, they say, you're conspiracy theories. Now, I don't know whether the conspiracy is true and the truth is a lie. We don't know. But people are waking up to all this reality, and it's gradually unfolding. And as it unfolds, all that we have to do now is not to become so much attached. Rather, one has to become detached. And once you become detached, and then you are looking at what is happening around the globe. Somebody asked a question. I'm from Ghana. Okay, so in West Africa. So once become detached from what is happening and look at the greater good, then we are good to go, and we can really bring in others along. So that is all that I have to say. It's going to get interesting. I think getting from the 20th onwards, 20th, the inauguration day is going to be interesting. I don't know. I cannot give you, but whosoever you think will enter into office, or the two parties you think may get the White House may not be. Okay, let's see what is going to happen. But this, the other media, the mainstream media, most of their lies are going to come to bear from 25th going. You will begin to see all these things, being exposed out there, because we cannot take it any longer. And the suppression of truth. If you are telling the truth and you are deleted from if you are deleted from Twitter, you are deleted from, and in fact they hold they wield a lot of power. These media houses or mainstream media, they wield a lot of power, and so it is all that is happening is showing that in fact our government, like Randy will say, your government, you think you are going to elect, but there is a little X in front of the election. So there is selection that is done. We don't elect. In fact, our leaders are selected for us. So in the long run, you think you have voted. And to bring my story to an end, I'll give you a story of something that happened in one of the, Middle Eastern country. I told Randy some time ago that there's one leader during the leadership of one of the dictators there. And the guy said, okay, you know what? This time, every time I go, I vote for this man. Today, I'm going to vote against this particular dictator. And then he went into the booth and then voted against the dictator. Then he said, when he left the booth and he was going, he said, oh, these people, they have my address and they have my name, my information is on my ID, so they will get to know. So when they get to know these people, they can come and kill all my family. So he went to the police station and said, you know what, I did a mistake. I'm here to, change the, what do you call it? Give me a new slip so that I can do a revoting. And then the what do you call it? The election official said it had been done already. You go. So it means that whether you voted for A or B, if it's B that they are choosing for, they have already chosen it. So, and all these things are coming to light. President Trump said that the whole thing looked like a sham. It looked like what do you call it? A Middle Eastern, what do you call it? A third world country. And some time ago, that was the description, that elections are rigged in the third world countries for the highest paid, what do you call it? Competitor. And when you watch Skyfall, the movie Skyfall, the protagonist and the antagonist, one was telling the other that, if you stop following the Queen service and then you join, you can go on your own missions. You can, what do you call it? Stop satellite transmission. You can rig election. You can, cause accidents, all to the highest bidder. Okay, all to the highest bidder. So if we live in a world, if you can pay, then evil can be effected on your behalf. And then, but all this thing is coming to, we are bringing into the light, we are shining the light upon it. Once people see what lies in the dark, then there will be, what do you call it, changes. And that is what is happening in our world. So thank you. That's my contribution.
Thank you, Benjamin. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I noticed Rick. I just wanted to ask Anna first, though, if there's anything that she wanted to throw in at all, or if she wants me to pass it on to Rick.
Okay, on that note, hello everyone. On that note, very quickly, I want to say, because Rick was explaining Ascension so beautifully, but most of the ladies were coming back to emotions, and how to connect. So I'm just gonna drop an example of how I understand it. We have to remember we came from the light. We came from the place that is 100% light. And when we decided to descend, let's imagine that we agreed to come to a place that is 50% light and 50% darkness. And now, all the bad emotions are the darkness. And the only thing we have to do is remind ourselves that we are going back to the light. So if in this moment we are 50-50, black and white, and that we are getting caught up in anger, we want to shake that neighbor is merely an actor in our play, reminding us of our darkness, that we have to shine the light on. And every time we see the darkness, we have to ask ourselves, am I gonna act out of shame, of anger, or am I gonna act out of love? And once we shine love on that shadow part, now we're not 50-50 anymore. We're 51 light and we're 41 darkness. And bits by bits, we are becoming more light and less darkness. And we are doing this with ourselves, and we are doing this with what Benjamin said, with the collective, we can shine the light on the collective level as well. But every time the most work is on ourselves and just being an example for others and reminding others, reminding ourselves and reminding others where we headed. We're headed back to the light. We're headed back to the, we're ascending to the light. So that's it from me for tonight. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thank you, Anna. That was beautiful. Rick, Rick, and then Ida, and I think we'll give Ida the last call here unless someone else wants to jump in right away after that. Rick, you're next.
Okay, thank you, William. I wish to just quickly speak about the Constitution. And if I get rambling, William, please put up your hand to remind me. So I'll try to keep this right to the point. The thing with constitutions is that they're individually in countries. And this is what creates the problem, because there is nothing to enforce any constitution in reality other than the people. So you have a constitution right here. You have an international law, which is supposed to enforce this with all of the countries that are into the international law. So you have 200 and some constitutions around the planet. You have the international law, and you also have United Nations and these other false, I call them false constructs of the darkness as well to maintain a control. However, with these constitutions, it is from the other countries to enforce them. But where you see all of the rights violated planet-wise, you know, at this time, it's very important and very divine, because it shows the people, again, that globally, that they must unite and have the one global constitution for all people. So very quickly, you can see also why in the US that the amendments in the US Constitution and also within their law has constantly been violated, if you will, because it invalidates it so that we can move forward to this global people's constitution. Now, having said this global people's constitution, there are just so many groups worldwide, and believe me, I'm very impressed because of this divine timing that I'm beginning to connect with more of these that you didn't even know were out there. And some of these are pretty substantial numbers within them. So I'm very impressed and grateful at this time in ascension that these awakened and very advanced conscious ones are showing up. Now, to give a quick example with Serbia here, I'm in Croatia, right next door to Serbia, but I do have connections globally and of course with some Serbian higher consciousness ones and people. What Serbia did recently is they did with everything within their Serbian law and their Serbian constitution to replace the government there by the people. So what they did within law, they did everything correct. They wrote up even their documents of recognition that they sent to every country around the world to say, we the people are the government of Serbia, to get endorsements and support. What occurred out of 200 and some countries, to my knowledge, there was one that recognized that new government of the people. Now, this is also substantial, where one recognized the constitutional rights of people from one country, 200 and some other countries did not. So very quickly, this shows you that any country constitutions actually have no effect because of that international law that is above the constitutions, and therefore this is why the people, again, has to go above it. And in reality, everything we know within our hearts, everything that is morally and ethically correct, and really it does not need to be wrote on paper. A simple constitution is do no physical harm to another. So we can keep it very simple. And having said that, in case all of you don't know, I have initiated the global people's new monetary system and simplified law. And I've initiated to bring all of the groups together around Gaia at this time, because this is what we are doing. Relative, or let's say tentative figures are suggesting that we have approximately between 2 to 4 billion, yeah, substantial numbers, that are awake enough to be able to readily accept this. Now, having said this, when you look at that huge voice, considering the population of India and China, which has the greatest country populations upon the planet, China with perhaps 1.6 billion and India with 1.4 billion. When you look at the unified global voice of the people at 2 to 4 billion, what you quickly come to see that it is a formidable voice of the people, that it is actually more powerful than any one country. And you can see where this is going. And this is why the people have the power now to take things forward out of the insanity and the enslavement. So just to let everyone know that that is initiated. It's going forward great, and we're getting many contacts. And this is the ascending timeline, the freedom for humanity and everything that everyone wishes. So it's going forward with your Trump patriot thing as well. This is the forward timeline I'm speaking about, the Global People's Project. Trump and all of this has to converge into this as well as everything else, because this is the main ascending timeline for all of humanity. So, you know, these things get coordinated and oriented, but they have to come into this. So it doesn't matter if they waver to the side, as we mentioned earlier. It needs to go there to give some more people information, you know, to come up to here. But actually, down here, everything has been exposed and revealed with the darkness that needs to be. There's more than enough. It is ample. It surpasses what is required to even pass to a lower consciousness one, that they must accept it to know, you know, about the deceit and what have you. So we are at this beautiful place right now, and as we go forward, the higher, and I have to say there is a hierarchy, and I know everyone would agree, because you have, not to degrade anyone, but we need to look at this. And one of the reasons that there is a hierarchy is that if everyone was in the higher consciousness, we would not even be having this yet. And it's because we have ours that are still down there lower, that we must bring them out of. So at this time, you know, there is not total despair with what occurred in the US. We have created, and we are building more of it in place, which they can see. This is the hope that they go forward to, what we are creating now. And it's all divinely assured that it does. So I'll stop there. Thank you.
Awesome, Rick. I have one quick question. I was curious to know, which was the one country that recognized Serbia, the people of Serbia?
Thank you, William. I was not told, but let me say, I suspect it was the US. I suspect it was, you know, the Trump regime, but the Trump administration, I should say. But I cannot validate that, and I was not told What I can say is I will be meeting perhaps in the very near future with some of, if not the leaders of that. So, but at this time, I feel it was, you know, the Trump administration. And I mean, if you look at it, that would maybe be the most obvious one. However, in Africa, where Ben is at, you know, in Mauritius, we have different, you know, leaders in certain places also, which should have recognized that. But I'm given there was only one yet.
Right. All right. Thank you, Rick, for that contribution and amazing information. Ida, I think I didn't see anyone else, so I'm going to give you the sort of the last shout here, unless Randy wanted to say something.
I
But
just
Ida, go
wanted,
ahead.
I just wanted to bring to light that someone, I'm not sure who, is chatting for Nix and they haven't spoken yet. So I don't know if that person is here and wants to speak or whatever. That's all.
Oh, Fornix was actually Dee and Anthony. They were the 2-in-1 special, and I think they dropped out of the call now.
Yeah, that's our handle. That's all.
Oh, okay.
We have spoken.
Okay.
We
Sorry.
That's
okay.
okay. She just making sure everyone gets a chance to speak. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Randy, did you say you wanted to say something?
Yes, please. I was, you know, I focus on the banks, as you guys know. So I had this news item from Northeast, West, and South that I want to get out to the world. I was on my way down and on the banks of the river, and I saw a lady standing, and she announced to me, "Did you see that over there?" And I said, "What do you mean?" She says, "There's a loon." And I said, "Really?" And I looked and I tried to get it on camera and I couldn't quite get it, a loon, you know, because it's the banks of the river and I think about money, so it's fucking loony here in Canada, right? Our coin. So it all mixes into my mind, right? So I'm looking at this and then I followed him and I had to run a little bit to catch up to him because they're floating down the river. And then I realized there was another one. I thought he was just hanging out with a duck, but it was another loon. So there was two of them together, and that's quite rare. But prior to that, still going back to the ladies' conversation, she says to me, "Well, I had a friend that told me that she saw a gray swan up here this year." And I said, "Well, I saw a blue heron yesterday flying down this right close to where we were, down the river." She says, "Isn't it amazing? We are so lucky." And I said, "Yeah, living under conscious knowledge." And that's all I wanted to add, William. So with abundance, sovereignty, health, love, and euphoria for all, I'm signing off, and I love you guys.
Thank you, Randy. Thank you, everyone. It's been a great call.
Love you.
Brilliant.
See ya.
Love and light.